Welcome back and good morning. Thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is Robert Mbui, the lawmaker representing Kadhiani constituency. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Lovely having you here.
Thank you.
And what a time. Parliament is resuming session today. Thank you. Peter Kihungi is the lawmaker representing Kangema constituency. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Thanks. Lovely having you here on the broadcast. Fred Okango is the Secretary of Political Affairs Azimio. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Ayub.
Lovely having you as well.
Thank you.
Honorable David Ochieng is the lawmaker representing Ugenya constituency and a member of the Budget Committee of the National Assembly. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Let's begin with a look at the front pages of the publications. And the Daily Nation has the headline, "The Rogue Police Boss," and this is in relation to the Acting Inspector General of Police, who yesterday came under sharp focus following the statement by the Judicial Service Commission, which was read by the Chief Justice Martha Koome, who said the act of withdrawing the security of a sitting judge following a judicial decision that displeased certain authorities is deeply concerning. This deliberate and punitive measure, she said, represents a direct assault on judicial independence. First, coming to you, Fred, does it in any way surprise you that there is increasingly the common growing and long-standing grudge against the judiciary and independent institutions in this country, largely what was majorly coming out of the political class, which is having a down effect where other officials are disrespecting a very instrumental arm of government in our democracy?
Thank you, Ayub, and thank you, our viewers. Now, it's unfortunate that this is happening, and we know this is not the first time it has happened. If you recall, every time there's an issue in this country that is pitting almost two arms of government, then one tries to flex the muscles. And a lot of times, the one that suffers most is the one that enjoys the security and protection, what we call VIP protection. But I can tell you, Ayub, when the people of Kenya realize that there's a problem of such nature, you remember when the people of Kenya gathered at Bomas of Kenya and made some recommendation. One of the recommendations in curing this that was proposed by the people of Kenya was amendment to the Constitution, particularly Article 75, that talks about the conduct of a state officer. And that amendment found itself in form of a bill. And it states that any public officer or state officer, as provided for in law, should obey court orders. And when they fail to do that, a court can sanction their failure to obey court orders. So it is within that premise that the people of Kenya thought that the courts are so important that their determination and verdicts should be obeyed by any state officer and public officer. The police are public officers. And therefore, if they are found not to have obeyed court order, it is wrong. However, when you look at the nature of this issue, the Chief Justice came out yesterday in public in a press statement and said that the learned judge, his security has been withdrawn. So the question would be, if today something happens to that judge, for whatever reason, not related, if anyone harms him, for whatever reason, not related, who would be responsible for such grievances? Who would be responsible for such issues? And that's why we are saying the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive are different arms of government. While they are interdependent, it is only fair and important that they work closely, but also with respect to the separation of powers.
Okay.
The people of Kenya, I would want to see everyone happy. They'd want to see everyone gets justice. They'd want to see everyone protected. And therefore, I submit that this issue should be addressed immediately.
Okay, and he did issue a statement when he said that there's no favor or discrimination. The officers seconded to such institutions, however, remain serving officers of the NPS who can be reassigned at the sole discretion of the IG. Such was the case with Honorable Justice Mugambi's security. So it's a matter of security that we are discussing.
You remember, Ayub?
Yes.
During the Mandamano, there's a mere Mandamano, majority of the leaders, political leaders, their securities were withdrawn, including my good friend sitting with me here, Honorable Mboy. Most of them, their security were withdrawn. But the reason that was given, the explanation that was given was that this is a normal procedure. The security officer can be reassigned to go back and come back. And later around, you notice that some of them were brought back. So in the interim, what happens? What is the measure that they are putting? What is the assurance that they are giving to the people of Kenya that this issue will be addressed and the learned judge is safe?
We'll read between the lines of the statement by the JSC and what Mr. Masengeli said in the last line of his paragraph 4, which he said that suitable arrangements were made to ensure that Mr. Mugambi's security was always assured. But there's something beyond that if you look at the conduct of the political class as well, where all you politicians do represent. But first to you again, Honorable Mboy, what do you make of this? The headline, the Daily Nation, says a rogue police boss. In your view, is he?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Ayub. I think the police boss is rogue. He has refused to answer to court summons, not once, not twice, but on several occasions, and he's unapologetic. I mean, he kind of feels that holding that office gives him power and some authority over the courts. And he doesn't seem to understand the separation of powers that any democratic nation like ours must at all times ensure that we uphold, where we have our judiciary respected, our parliamentary system, legislature respected, and then the executive. But you see, when you look at the whole of this issue, first and foremost, I think it's important for the police to understand that when they are providing security to members of parliament and judges, it's not a favor. It's the nature of the job that we do that actually, the law kind of wants to protect us. Remember, every time a judge makes a ruling, there is somebody who will be aggrieved because a ruling must have a winner and a loser. Mm-hmm. So every time a judge makes a ruling, the loser would be out, sometimes could even want to harm the judge. So that's why you remember recently, a few months ago, someone actually shot and killed a judge in a court of law.
A magistrate.
A magistrate, sorry, who does the same job as a judge, because they judge people and kill them. So that is the reason why they are provided with security. Members of parliament also, every single time they make a vote on the house, there are people who will win and there are those that lose. You saw what happened after the finance bill that was withdrawn by the president. Some of our members, their houses were burnt, their businesses were affected. So that's why the security is provided, because of the nature of the job. But it seems like the police seem to think that it's a favor. But let's go back to the issue of the Inspector General and this issue of being rogue. It is actually something I've noticed within the current administration of Kenya Kwanza, because Inspector General is serving that administration. He's part of that executive. Mm-hmm. It's not the first time that they are showing, disregard for the rule of law. And not only does he refuse to attend court, he also decides to withdraw security for the judge. Now, if you go back, you notice that recently we had this EPRA, which introduced a 7 shillings per litre charge on the cost of fuel on road maintenance levy, which is unconstitutional, which is against the law. And we raised it, and I think the courts have raised it, and have said that should be withdrawn. They are still implementing it. It's still on the pump price. You go back a little bit more, you realize that there was a time when the finance bill had been withdrawn, and the housing levy was still charged on our pay slips. So there is a problem about rule of law that this regime needs to deal with, so that we can get this thing right once and for all.
Yeah, which is not specifically, I mean, an issue that is confined within the Kenya Kwanza quarters, but equally if you look at the order that was given by a judge of a sitting court, where the then Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI George Kinoti, was ordered to return Jimmy Wanjigi's guns, and he reportedly said, "Over my dead body."
Incidentally, you are right, Ayub, but we need to get to a point where we have an administration in this country that respects the rule of law. Then that's when we start healing the country. And that's one of the reasons why our youth are out in the streets, because the country is going to the dogs.
All right. And David, coming to you, does this have all the likelihoods, or does it bear the hallmarks of impairing the country's institutions, affecting the economy and as well the society?
Thank you, Ayub. First of all, see, the very foundation of governance, the foundation of a democratic society depends entirely on the respect for the rule of law. Mm-hmm. The reason you have the three arms of government is so that there's a system of checks and balances that ensures that the country moves in one accord. Parliament makes laws, judiciary interprets those laws, and we expect the executive to implement the laws that are passed. And who enforces them? Yeah. We set up for ourselves a police service to ensure that we're able to enforce the law. So if the police service decides to enforce the law, then the whole fabric of democracy falls. We're falling into anarchy. And I want to say this morning, that if that gentleman does not resign by the end of the day today, as David Ochieng will take such a motion to Parliament for his removal from office, he must leave office. In fact, that should not even be debated. That the head of police service has refused to obey a court order should be frowned upon by, it should be a scandal. It should bring outrage that the head of police refuses to obey a court order and then goes ahead to order that the secretary of a judge be withdrawn. It's not a small matter, Ayub. And so we are dealing with a decay in social order, decay in legal order, and generally a free-for-all system that must be stopped immediately. If we don't do this, then tomorrow, why would you expect someone who is found stealing or murdering to obey the law? Okay. And as my colleague said, in Makadara issue, it wasn't anybody. It was a police officer who shot a magistrate. It wasn't any Kenyan armed anyhow. It was a police officer. I mean, so we are dealing with a very, very sensitive matter. And I want to call upon those concerned, especially the CS Interior and the National Police Service Commission, that they must take action forthwith. This cannot be allowed to stand even for a single day. So the censure motion that will bring to Parliament will be in view of removing him from office? Yes, he must. If he can't resign, he must leave office anyhow. Okay. He must. I mean, we cannot have Masengeli going back as IG. It's unconscionable that he disobeys court orders. A contempt case is issued against him. He's asked, come back and purge the contempt. Come to court. Okay. The judge, in fact, bent backward so many times. In fact, he said even at the judgment, on the judgment day, he said that the judgment I've issued today, still, the gentleman has still 7 days to come before me and purge this contempt. Instead of doing so, what has happened over the weekend, it's just scandalous. Okay. It's not, that's not the way we work. Okay. And it has to be said this morning that when that kind of a thing happens, I believe absolutely that Masengeli is not acting on his own. Okay. You mean there's an executive? Yes, there must be someone telling him stay put. Okay. Honorable Peter Kihungi, what do you make of this, given that the learned judge also mentioned during the proceedings that the head of the VIP protection unit of the police was in touch with the bodyguard and driver of the judge, and which he mentioned in the court, and then there's the withdrawal of the security of the judge, as yesterday mentioned in the statement by the JSC. All this, do they point to a specific issue, and which is to disrespect the institution of the judiciary?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayub. One thing is that I think I thought it could not have come to that situation of withdrawal of the security for Judge Mugambi. I thought the best approach could have been dialogue between the arms of government. Because maybe Masengeli or the IG has a reason maybe why he's not able to attend to the court orders, but he can be able to explain his case. They can reason together and they can be able to work together, because mostly on issues also of security, I think the issues that he was told to bring clear is the loss of, I think, three protesters whom maybe the family is
No,
pushing.
3 Kenyans to be specific.
3 Kenyans. And I think the family also has a right, because even me, if it's my case, I lose my brother or somebody who is related to me, I could wish to know what could have happened. Therefore, I thought the best approach, because he was given, I think, 6 or 7 days to appeal, he could have just first of all appealed. Then he could be able to put his case, even if he's behind cameras, on why maybe as a national security issue, maybe he does, maybe the court orders, he cannot be able to obey the court orders or explain his case. Therefore, even if I support the government on issue of withdrawal of the security for Judge Mugambi, I cannot support. And also, secondly, we must understand that the independence of judiciary is the areas to run to. Maybe whenever you fight the government, maybe is acting against me. Today I'm in the government. Tomorrow I'll be on the other side. Yeah. And therefore the security and the independence of judiciary is paramount to everybody. And therefore, even for Masengeli himself, he might be out of IG, and he will still need the protection of the court. Therefore, I think the aspect of punishing the court for decisions they make is not the right thing. The best thing is to open up a dialogue or conversations whereby the government can be able to explain its case whenever maybe it's fight that the issue of national security also is being interrupted by some of the decisions made by the courts.
All right. Yeah. But before you leave this issue,
briefly, yes.
Because this is almost been systemic, that between May and now, we've seen disappearances. We've seen public abductions on the streets. And so this is systemic, that the IG is saying, I will not come to court to answer on these disappearances. And this, if not nipping the bud, we've lived through these times before. We can't have a situation where the police cannot explain why they are killing innocent Kenyans, where they are disappearing, and they are being asked, come and explain. And then they catapult, they show power. But this can't happen.
Okay, Honorable Cheng, to just put you to account then, when you were elected, your party supported the Kenya Kwanza Alliance.
We still do.
You still do?
Yes, we still do.
And then you, in most occasions, met the president and talked about national interest matters. The head of state on the 4th of January 2023 mentioned that he fired George Kinoti because of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances of Kenyans. Today you are mentioning that there's an increase in cases where we have many Kenyans who are disappeared. And the 3 Kenyans whom Masengeli was told to produce before a court of law are just but a few of that number. I mean, what can you tell the Kenyan public that you supporting government as the MDG party leader? And where's the moral authority here from the presidency, given that there was a promise this will end, there will be no more River Yala, there will be no more bodies that will end up in the rivers, and the courts of law will be the destinations. But we are finding that many Kenyans are missing. Their families don't know about their whereabouts. So what can you tell them?
Yeah, Dugant Ayub, I want to say something before I answer that question. I don't know who says that if you support Kenya Kwanza, you're in a coalition in Kenya Kwanza, then you cannot see its ills. I hear that a lot. Yeah. That if you are supporting Kenya Kwanza, therefore, you cannot see bad things happening. That, I think, is, in my opinion, quite a lazy kind of thinking. We must agree that as parliament, as elected leaders, our job first and foremost is to oversight. Now, I don't think I want to go to what the president said in January last year, because so much has happened since that time that statement for me doesn't hold any water.
But the point is, but the point is, you can't run away from this, being an elected member who represents the people of Ugenya at first and then the Kenyan people, and a lawmaker at that, because the president holds the ultimate office that must provide answers, ultimate answers for the Kenyan people. Does it concern you? Has the government failed on a major pledge that it made to end extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances?
That's what I want to answer.
Yes, please.
That's what I want to answer. Yeah. But I'm saying that on that score, the government has failed absolutely. Because we've seen, and that's what I said earlier, I've seen between May and now, we've seen public abductions. We've seen disappearances. We've seen parents getting their kids in morgues and mortuaries. One of them was last Friday. A parent has been looking for his son for the last 3 weeks, found Mama Lucy in Kayole. after 3-4 weeks. No one tells him. So this has to be dealt with. And so the fear that I have is that IAG is being asked, come and explain to us these appearances, then he turns around, takes away the secret of a judge, telling us that we will do this, namutadu. That's what they're telling us, that we will do whatever we wish, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's why something must be done. And if, for example, this afternoon, if I file such a motion and they feel like doing my security, let them do it. Let's see how many people they can withdraw their security, and let's see where that will end at. We cannot, in any good conscience, as a country, just let the rule of law go to the dustbin. And I want to call upon those who are that all of us who are, in my opinion, right-minded, must call Masengeli for this rogue action, that this doesn't belong to our country.
Who will call him out, in your view?
I've just done so. I've just done so, and I've told you what I'm going to do next.
There is a feeling of no one has the moral authority in the political establishment.
No. I think, and that's where we miss the point. That, yes, we may have, as Parliament, gotten very weak, in my opinion, lately. But there are things that when they happen, this country, everyone must rally together and say that this is the very foundation of our democracy. This is the very foundation of our social fabric, that if we allow anybody to willy-nilly disobey the law, then we are disintegrating. We are basically removing the foundation upon which the country stands, and we are now looking at a situation where no one will obey the law in the future. Okay, thank you. Fred, I'll come to you after the break here, because we need to go on a break and come back and proceed with the discussion. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We proceed with that and more after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.